So dear learner, we can now look at the layout or layout of the research report. Layout of the research report. So a typical research report may follow a standard layout to ensure clarity, organization, and easy understanding. And a common report structure could be as follows. So a report may have the following. Number one, the title page. Number two, abstract, or what might be called executive summary. Number three, introduction. Number four, methodology. Number five, findings. Number six, discussion. Number seven, conclusion. Number eight, references. Number nine, appendices, which might be optional. So this is a general layout that could be followed in relation to a given research report. And when you have these 9 aspects, it should be noted that different organizations may have different terminologies that could be used, and the structure in relation to each of these could also be different, where some could be combined, some could have other names, but generally the outline of a research report typically takes this common structure, where in the first instance there will be a title page, then number 2, an abstract, number 3, an introduction, number 4, the methodology adopted, number 5, findings, number 6, discussion, number 7, conclusion, number 8, references, number 9, appendices, which might be optional. So dear learner, we are going to have a look at these areas or common structure of a report briefly, so that we can see what could be contained in these particular sections of a research report. The first one in the layout of the research report is the title page. Number 1, title page. And this title page will include or incorporate the report title, author's name, affiliation, and then the date. And when it comes to the report title, this is a concise and informative title that accurately reflects the content. It's important to ensure that the title of a report, as the title of a report, should as much as possible endeavor, as much as possible, try to be informative to ensure that it accurately reflects the content of what is contained in that particular research. Then the author's name. So the name of the person who conducted the research, or the names of the agency that conducted the research, should clearly be indicated, so that whoever is looking at the title page can see who are the authors of this particular report. Then affiliation, the institution or organization where the author is associated should be provided on the title page, and then the date the report was completed. So in most cases, when it comes to the date, there are those organizations that could provide a specific date, but there are those organizations that could provide the year on the top. And then when it comes to maybe the declaration page, the actual date when the report is signed could also be provided. So dear learner, the layout of the research report in relation to the title page should capture the report title, the author's name, affiliation, or the organization where the author is associated, and then the date the report was completed. Because remember, when it comes to a report, we are providing information in what has already taken place. Number 2, abstract. So an abstract is a brief summary, a concise overview of the entire report including the research questions, the methods, key findings, and conclusions. So what normally happens, some organizations could give, or institutions could give the number of words that are expected to be in the abstract. So the abstract could, for instance, be required to have not more than 300 words or 250 words. And this particular abstract may also require to have the key terminologies or the keywords. So those users of a report may, for instance, the readers may just go to the abstract page and then be able to read it and be able to get a gist, or to be able to get the intention or the main aspect why that report was being written. And based on just reading that particular report, they can be able to come up with a conclusion in relation to what they want to be able to do, or get that overview, then now read the report or go to the sections that could be of interest to them. So the abstract is very important. And in some cases, when it comes to the research, the abstract may be insisted on, or it may be required initially, so that the abstract is sent, so that the readers of that particular report can look at the abstract only and then be able to invite a presentation or maybe the submission of the entire report. So the abstract plays a very key role when it comes to the process of report writing and then the reading of the report. So the second part in terms of the layout of the research report is the abstract. Then number three, the third aspect in the layout of the research report is the introduction. So the introduction of a research report should provide a background, should provide the research question, should provide the literature review, should provide the research objectives. And when it comes to the background of the research should provide the context and explain the significance of the research topic. The research question should clearly state the specific question or problem being investigated. The literature review should summarize relevant previous research on the topic. Research objectives should outline the goals of the study. And what is normally instructive is that the research questions should be aligned with the research objectives, so that when you are looking at a given research objective, you are seeing the research question that is expected to be answered, and that alignment could provide a clarity in relation to how the research will be conducted and how the report will also be written. So this is a very important area that creates the background of the research, and it's important that it's done with a lot of consideration to ensure that the background that is laid in a given research report is firm, because it is the basis on which the entire report is also done. So it must be distilled properly, it must be explained properly, it must be thought through. So the introduction part is the third part of the layout of the research report. Then the fourth part of the layout of the research report is the methodology, number 4. And in methodology, the research design is provided, the participants of the study are provided, the data collection is explained, and data analysis is described. And when it comes to the research design, the research design describes the overall approach that is used. For example, a study may adopt an experimental design, it may adopt a survey design, or it may be a case study. When it comes to the participants, the details about the subjects or participants involved in the study is provided in relation to the population of that particular study. When it comes to data collection, the data collection explains the methods that are used to gather data. For example, you may use a researcher or data, those conducting a study may use interviews, they may use questionnaires, they may use observations, And this could be used in combination in terms of mixed methods, or could be used in isolation, depending on the phenomena that is being looked at. And when it comes to data analysis describes the techniques that may be used in the process of data collection, and also how the data is analyzed will be influenced by the kind of study and the kind of research design that is adopted. So the methodology section of the layout of the research report will bring out the research design, will bring out the participants of the population of the research, or maybe the sample, will also provide the data collection instruments, the data collection techniques that have also been adopted, and how the data is analyzed. So after the number 4, in the layout of the research design, we move to number 5, which talks about the findings in the layout of the research report. And when it comes to the findings of a research report, this captures presentation of results, data visualization, and interpretation. So when it comes to presentation of the results, this presents the key findings of the research in a clear and organized manner. In data visualization, tables may be used, charts may be used, graphs may be used in order to illustrate the results that have been found in relation to the data that was collected. So this visualization is very key, because by looking at a particular chart, by looking at a particular graph, the viewers or maybe the readers of this particular research can be able to see that this is what is expected in relation to this particular study. So when it comes to interpretation attempts to explain the meaning and significance of the findings. So there could be computations, there could be an analysis, a regression equation, for example, and there are certain outputs that have come up. There is a particular table that is showing, for example, a trend or relationships or correlations. So that person or the person drafting the report or the team conducting the study can then attempt to say, based on the data that has been collected and presented, now this is what could be the interpretation of these particular findings in relation to existing literature, in relation to what is already known, and this could be pointing towards maybe a new area, or maybe a finding that could be new to inform our understanding of a phenomenon, or bringing out new knowledge that was initially not in the domain of the readers. So the findings are also very important in relation to the research report. Then number 6, discussion. So in relation to the findings, when it comes to discussion in the research report creates a relationship between findings and literature, and then addressing research questions, looking at the limitations of the study and implications. So relating findings to literature, the researcher, in this case, will compare the findings that have been found in the study being conducted to previous research that has been conducted. Remember, literature has been reviewed previously, gaps have been identified in literature, a study has been conducted to try and explain those gaps or fill in those gaps. So a researcher will, for instance, be saying, these findings of this particular study in corroboration with a study conducted in Zambia, a study conducted in Tanzania, a study conducted in, say, Tunisia, a study conducted in America, a study conducted in Asia or China. Now, the findings of this study compare with the other one, but they vary. This is what the other studies found, and this is what now this study is finding. So this comparing of findings help enhance our knowledge in relation to how a study is situated, or the context of look at the global, we look at the regional, we look at the local, then we try to relate and corroborate these findings and see whether those findings agree or whether those findings are different, and then we try to provide an explanation in relation to the discussion of the current study. Then when it comes to addressing research questions, a study might have set out to answer 3 questions to look at, for instance, the relationship between preparation of students and performance in the exam, study patterns and performance in the exam, facilities that students may have and performance in a given subject. So when now we had that question, do facilities in primary schools affect performance of pupils? So we are intending to answer the research questions that were posed in the introductory part of the study, and addressing these research questions is trying to provide answers supported by empirical or data that has been gathered in this particular study. So in the discussions, it is important that the researchers provide a section that looks at the research questions. If there were 3, at least those 3 questions can be looked at. If there were 4, or as the case might be. And when it comes to limitations, it is important during the discussion that those who are providing a discussion in a study acknowledge any limitations or weaknesses in the study. If, for instance, a study was situated in the coast region in Kenya, it is important that in terms of discussion, those who are discussing indicate that this study was conducted among secondary schools or among institutions in Kilifi or among maybe institutions within Mombasa town, so that way whoever is reading that study is able to understand that this study is in the context of a given environment. Depending also on the methodology that was adopted, it is also important that these limitations can come out so that the researcher can say that the data that was used in this particular study, was based on a method of data collection that required the respondents to fill in a questionnaire, or it was based on feedback that was provided through maybe focused interviews. So that way, there could be a limitation in terms of the methodology, a limitation in terms of location, a limitation also in terms of time. So that is important to come out so that the context of the study is understood in relation to the recommendations that will be coming out. Then implications. When it comes to the discussion, implication discusses the potential implications of the findings. If, for instance, previously it has been assumed that during the cold season, wearing warm clothes would help people in relation to avoiding particular diseases. If a finding comes out that is different, it may have potential implications on how people approach maybe dressing and fashion, or it may address how people in future will have particular patterns in terms of consumption or decision making in terms of study techniques, among others. So it is important that implications of the study are brought out in relation to the discussion that is provided in the layout of the research report, which is the discussion. The eighth part of the layout of the research report is the references. And when it comes to the references, you may have a citation list. So in this citation list, it should provide a complete list of all sources that are cited in the report following a specific citation style, whether it is APA, MLA, or Chicago style, for example. Or one may have what is called a bibliography. So this is supposed to provide the citations or the references as the case might be. And what is important, it is important for that list to be complete to ensure that the readers of the report, if they want to do further references or check where the information came from themselves, they can also be able to do that so that the report is complete. The ninth part in relation to the layout of the research report is the appendices. And this may be optional because some reports may be self-referencing inside, and they may not need references, or maybe they may not need appendices. So appendices are supplementary materials which may include any additional or supporting research. For example, there is the issue of raw data. There are issues like questionnaires, ethical approval documents, letters of permission, the questionnaires that were adopted, among other things that may be required in a report, depending on the type of the report that was being done. So the appendices are optional, but this is important to know that certain reports may require an appendix or appendices so that they can be attached, and they need to be referenced to in the main body of the report, so that if you are saying, if the writer of a report is indicating that a questionnaire was adopted and the questionnaire had 3 parts, then an appendix could be attached, and then the questionnaire can be referred to, so that in the research methodology section, the researcher can say a questionnaire in brackets C appendix 2 was used, so that whoever wants to make a reference to how the questionnaire was structured can check at the back of the document and see a 3-part questionnaire attached, so that that report can be understood that way by the readers. So, dear learner, these are the 9 items that need to be considered or looked at when it comes to the layout of the report, which we have looked at. And we have seen that when it comes to the layout of the research report will have, number 1, the title page, which will provide the report title, the author's name, affiliation of the author, and the date that particular report was completed. And number 2, the layout of the report will have an abstract, which we have said it is a brief summary, concise overview of the entire report, including the research question, methods, key findings, and conclusions. Number 3, research report layout will have number 3, which is introduction. And that introduction will have a background, research questions, or sometimes research hypothesis, and then you have literature review and the research objectives. So those are the main aspects that may be in the introductory part. Other sections or maybe other subsections could be included in the introduction, depending on the nature of the report. And then number 4, methodology part of the report would have the research design, the participants, data collection, data analysis as the main aspects of the methodology, but other aspects could also be captured in the methodology to try and make the methodology section very clear. Number 5, in the layout of the research report are findings. So number 5, the findings section. So in the findings sections, this is where the results of the study are presented, data is visualized there, and the interpretation is provided. Number 6, expected to have the discussion, and then number 7, the conclusion for the report, and then number 8, references, then number 9, appendices that could be optional. So, dear learner, the layout of the report may have number 1, the title page, number 2, the abstract, number 3, introduction, number 4, methodology, number 5, findings, number 6, discussion, number 7, conclusion, number 8, references, number 9, appendices that might be optional. So it's important to bear this in mind.